Hey, what's up, guys? This is MP Roland, and we're going to be checking out another Mass Effect 3 multiplayer video today in regards to the Drell Adept, and it's been one of my favorite classes to play recently, especially with a few of my friends, and because that's really the whole point of the Drell Adept. Before I start, obviously the Drell Adept has pretty much two different types of playstyles. There's a couple different effective builds you can have with him. The one I'm going to show you right here is my newly refined one after playing a lot of silver and gold. And I'll get into why I put the points into why I did in a second. But for my specializations on Reeve, quite possibly the most important skill in this class, you definitely want to go with radius over duration. Hitting more enemies with it is way more important than it lasting a few seconds longer. I think it's only 2 or 3 seconds longer, which really doesn't help because the power recharge is really small. About a second or so, second and a half with the power recharge, so it's really not that big of a deal. And for the second step, I definitely go with damage reduction. The power recharge speed, it's honestly a personal preference at this point. I think that your power recharge is pretty much small enough as it is to in between firing weapons and grenades to not really necessitate having a little bit smaller recharge because it's already pretty small. But and the damage protection is just extra help. The Drell is pretty much the squishiest class in the game, I think, by statistics. So whatever you can give, and Reeve does provide a damage bonus, so it does help. This one, honestly, is completely up to personal preference for me. I think both talents definitely have their effectiveness. That's a lot better against phantoms and stuff like that, against Cerberus, because there's a lot more protection between phantoms and atlases and all that, but especially reapers too. But I think overall this kind of is the most beneficial in terms of overall benefit, because you're getting 2 damage bonuses, a duration bonus, so it lasts a little bit longer, does a little bit more damage, and it also helps you out by giving you pretty much up to almost 50% damage reduction, which is pretty cool. Cluster grenades, once again, really up to personal preference for me. I kind of whiff a lot with my grenades, so instead of learning how to aim, I usually take the impact radius, just because the whole point really for me is triggering biotic explosions, and that's kind of the whole point of the class, is to be like an artillery expert. So you can obviously go for force and damage. It is helpful for those of you who have better aim. But for me, I'm kind of looking more towards helping everyone else out and getting the biggest spread possible. I think that's honestly kind of useless. I think having extra grenades, because it's less grenades you'll run out slower generally. Have another grenade to throw, and it saves time, and it's always nice. So that's what I go with. For this one, once again, it's a lot of personal preference. I think if you're going for radius and all that, I think you should definitely go with shrapnel, because it gives you another boost to your range. Because every grenade in that range will, have more impact, and it gives you basically, instead of throwing 3 grenades, I believe you're throwing 4 when you have the increased shrapnel count. But it might be you have only 2 and then you're throwing 3 or something like that. But there's definitely no way to go wrong. If you go pure damage, that's pretty powerful, like extremely powerful. But it's all up to you, honestly. This is what I've used, and this is what works well for me. So you can obviously go any other way you want. For the Drell Assassin, pretty self-explanatory. You're not really going for weapon damage. You're all about the powers. So just go, bottom, top, and then honestly, I just take this because it lets you use the Carnifex or any other heavy pistol you want, which is what you should be using, honestly. It's all about the powers, and so as many damage bonuses as you can, and then decrease the weight of pistols. That's just me. And then for fitness, I think is also very important, because you get this huge movement bonuses, and getting any boost to your durability is definitely nice, because not everyone's perfect and you will get hit on occasion. So I go with health and shields, and the shield. This is the only really skill you need to worry about. But I usually go with that just for more durability and survivability. And for those of you who are wondering why I didn't use pull, the more I've played on silver and gold especially, pull has almost no use, honestly. It does on bronze make you kind of a solo expert if you do put a few points into pull. It takes either some out of cluster grenade, or just don't go rank 5 on one of these 2 skills. And I don't really think it's worth it to invest in the higher difficulties, because you're going to be spamming Reeve so much and helping everyone else out with their explosions that pull really doesn't do anything effective. I mean, if you're playing against Cerberus, getting rid of some Guardian shields can be nice. And if that's honestly all you're going to do with it, then just take take 6 points out of this and put the rest in pull here, I guess. As I say, I don't really recommend doing that because there's other ways to deal with Guardians. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But like I said, if you really want to, take one out of these skills here, put 3 into pull, and call it a day. But I do recommend always maxing Reeve and fitness, or Reeve and cluster grenade. So what I wanted to do after I kind of talked about my setup and all of that stuff is talk about some tips basically on how to succeed with the Drell Adept in multiplayer. The gameplay itself, I didn't really find any good teammates last night to kind of go along with the strategy that I usually employ. This is a gold gameplay on Firebase White against the Geth. Probably the easiest way to be gold if you ask me. Really easily defensible position and stuff like that. But what you want to do with the Drell, for the most part, is max. Things to keep in mind are always have max power recharge. It's very important, and it's pretty easy to do once you get a fully upgraded pistol. You don't have to have the phalanx or the paladin or the carnifex to really do well, but it is nice. And basically, you want to try and have a pistol or an SMG, or even the Avenger level 10, I believe, gives you max power recharge. But that's very important for the fact that you need to Reeve everything. Reeve is very important for the Drell. One, it helps deal with a little bit more. It helps deal with the armor, and also is one of the best triggers, I believe, for trigger and detonator for biotic explosions, or initiator, whatever you want to call it. It's very easy to spam. Takes about a second and a half if you have max power recharge. So fire off a few shots with your pistol or something like that to get a few more rounds in. But basically, Reeve is the most important skill the Adept has for the Drell. So you always, if you look in the video, I continually spam it, and it does a lot of damage over time, and it helps weaken armor. It doesn't really do that much against shields. But barriers and armor do get heavily affected, so it's very good to use against phantoms on Cerberus, and one of the most important things for biotics in general are just biotic explosions due to how powerful they are. So if you have an Adept with you or another biotic user, definitely try to communicate with them to at least say, hey, listen, I'm gonna be throwing out some Reeves constantly. If you can blow them up, that'd be nice. Or if you're playing with an Asari or something like that who's using a Stasis, or a human that's using Singularity, you can help out as well by detonating their explosions. So it's because they do so much damage, and that's why I believe it's very important to always use Reeve and focus on Reeve. And as well for that, so one of the most important skills the Drell has as well, if you're not using pull especially, is the cluster grenades. I do believe you should use them a little bit wisely. And the big thing to do is to definitely try and use them against groups. If you have a group of, say, like 3 Geth Pyros and one of them's weak on armor or something like that, Reeve him. And if you have area Reeve or area of effect Reeve, just throw the grenade at the middle of the ground, and you should be able to just kind of blow them all up. And it's very nice to be able to do that. So that's what I usually do. And sometimes, if you have a good teammate with you who's also casting a Warp or Singularity or Stasis, or another Drell Adept, even casting Reeve, or the new Asari Justicar, you can definitely do an absolute crap load of damage with the cluster grenades. They're easily the best grenades in the game, in my opinion. A lot of area covered by them if you spec them properly, and if you don't, you still can do a ton of damage. Other use for them, because you only get 3, and at max, and the thing to keep in mind is if you're playing on silver or gold, you only get 1, and they respawn, I think, every 20 or 30 seconds at the ammo boxes, so use them wisely. But another good use for them is to basically nuke bosses, like Geth Primes, Banshees, etc., Brutes. They do a ton of damage, especially if you use Reeve on them first, because it triggers that biotic explosion. And that's just a really good way to get rid of bosses in general. Any bosses, especially Geth Primes and Banshees, is to just blow them up with biotic explosions. So if you're playing with a Vanguard, a Human Vanguard, or any sort of Vanguard. Human Vanguard is probably the best companion for the Drell. That is like the Sentinels, with who can just cast Warp all day, and throw stuff, blow it up. But if you're playing with one of them, definitely you reaving it and them charging and Nova, it just does so much damage over time. Consecutively, keep on doing it, and then you throw a cluster grenade in there, enemies will die very fast. So you definitely want to keep that in mind, and it will definitely benefit you, and you'll notice your productivity going way up. The Drell is definitely not a solo-oriented class. He's very dependent on his teammates, but the teammates heavily depend on him in many situations. So that's why I enjoy playing him. He's kind of a glue guy for your team, a lot like, say like a Salarian Engineer on Gold or something like that. He does a lot for the team, and the team can also do a whole lot for him. So if you have a lot of friends, I definitely recommend picking up the Drell, or if you have a friend who's a Drell, definitely try and give them support as a Vanguard or another Adept, because you will definitely see that it is one heck of a combination. This is what's come, from my playing time with the Drell. I've done a lot of silver games, beaten about 10 or so gold games now, just using him. And with a team of adepts, or at least one or two, kind of a partner adept per se, you do a lot of damage, and it's really useful for both crowd control purposes and just general damage, But so yeah, I would definitely say if you're gonna play solo, I would definitely not recommend the Drell unless you're playing with randoms who are using biotics, because sometimes they're a little bit competent, sometimes they're not. But just something to keep in mind. But I'll list a group of teammates below that are pretty much optimal for the Drell Adept, and some weapons that are really useful and all that. Because I just believe that the Drell is a very fun class, and if you can definitely get the hang of it, it is incredibly powerful. And things like to go boom, then that's what you gotta do. But if you have any more questions about the Drell or anything like that, feel free to message me or comment below, and I'll answer them. It's pretty straightforward to just use Reave and blow stuff up. But thanks for watching, and make sure to request a new character you want to see and all that, and I'll try and get it as soon as possible. Thanks for watching.